Thanks, Mike. Well, so I've got a couple of years on Patrick in the industry, which means that I'm still well behind most of you in this room. I've been at STEM for about 5 years, and in the industry for about 6. So, Mike alluded to my some sort of financial acumen. I have had a former life as a banker, nothing to do with investments, but closer to the money than I am now. So. Still a newbie in the industry, but a veteran at STEM, and STEM is STEM is at its core a software technology company for energy storage. And by the standards of our industry, we're somewhat of a veteran in the energy storage space. We've been around since 2009 and have been operating storage systems since 2012 and operating one of the largest BPPs in the world in Southern California. And to what Randy was talking about earlier, the use case of putting energy back into the grid and the negative pricing impacts that has. STEM has been an operator in that space for a while. So from that perspective, we've been around for a while, but of course, energy storage is very new in general in the power industry. So I want to give you guys a little bit of history on where we've gotten to and how we've gotten to here today, and talk a little bit about how we're seeing public power and other utilities leverage energy storage and really put it to use for a multitude of use cases. It is a very flexible asset. It can be paired with renewables, but it's not have to be useful. So I want to give you guys some ideas and really think of this as a conversation starter. There's so many different ways that you can slice and dice storage, whether you make it small or large, or paired or not paired. So want to give you guys some, I guess, some things to think about, and I'm curious to hear from you guys how you've seen storage so far. And where you think it could be applicable in your grids, because it is very kind of specific. And actually, really quickly, this is 2 of us. There's we have Kim, we have Jim, we have Ian, we have Brian, we have Kira. So we've got a team of folks that are really focused on public power, co-ops, utilities in general. So we have a very big focus on the space at STEM. We also work directly with developers and other partners that you would work with to put together projects. But Randy and I are here today repping the team. I want to go quickly just to this to give you guys a sense of scale. We have a lot of assets in the ground. We have both solar and storage assets that we're monitoring and managing. And you can think of STEM as a tool with a lot of intelligence behind it, so that you can make intelligent decisions or allow STEM to make intelligent decisions on your behalf with an asset in the ground. And that means that we have the kind of mixture of both physical asset intelligence and cloud and market intelligence, some of which is informed by folks like Amperon, provide us forecasts, and we then do the ingestion of that, the optimization of that. And it's interesting to hear the discussion earlier about AI, just in the sense that, we've been talking about how we're AI driven for, 10, 15 years. And in the last year or 2, I've kind of stopped saying it as much because it can be such a controversial topic. And ultimately it's something that is, kind of core to the future of energy. And we've been working with it for a while. So we like to think of ourselves as having some experience and knowledge base there. And to go back, and interestingly, earlier today when Brian was talking about issues, I saw that I got some of them right, and I think that I missed some of them as well. So this is certainly not the exhaustive list of issues that are being faced today in the public power space, and certainly not going to stand here and say that battery storage is the best solution for each one of these in any way, shape, or form, and certainly probably can't really handle most of them alone. And it, what we see is when we have conversations with folks about, how to manage the transition of fossil fuel to renewable energy, or how to manage increasing energy demand, and how to manage increasing costs. Energy storage can be part of that network of solutions, that is combined with other technology, et cetera. So these are some of the things we're hearing in conversations. Curious to hear if these are, the same issues you're seeing, or if there's other ones that I'm missing. As you think about how energy storage can fit into that mix of solutions, on the changing grid, I think what I like to, this is a graphic that came from Rocky Mountain Institute, and I think it was published in like 2015. And I always looked at this when I was starting at STEM. This was like a thing that I was like obsessed with. This is so cool. Like, well, they figured out every way that you can use storage. And at the beginning, there was only a couple that were really being done effectively, and this was a lot of this was theoretical. Now STEM and others can really do every one of these different use cases, and I think it speaks to the complexity of different ways that you can use storage. And today it might be, let's use it for energy arbitrage. Let's buy low, sell high, or let's use it to shave our peak, or let's use it for backup power. But next year, the year after, or 2 years, or 5 years down the road, the market might change. You say we can't use it for that anymore because there's not enough, there's not enough juice in that, and we should be using it for this other thing. The market's enabled us to use it for a different use case. So one of the things that that is important is to be able to think about that future and not just plan for the opportunity today, but how to do it in the future. Every market's different. Certainly there's places where the frequency regulation is super valuable. Other places, the distribution deferral is valuable. So each grid is unique in that way. And one of the kind of highest and best use cases that we're seeing in today's market is the one that's part of the left here with the local peak mitigation. And I would say that all of these are, in my mind, kind of the ones that bubble to the top as use cases for utilities. There's increasing grid strain, and all of that pressure builds up to having these higher priced peaks, higher priced moments in time in the afternoon when the maybe the solar is dropping off on your grid, or maybe everyone's starting to turn on their AC because it's so hot. So these grid strains offers an opportunity for this kind of short-term injection relief on the grid. We're seeing that be a huge use case across the markets. Again, I'm speaking very generally. There's certainly some places where it's not very valuable at all. But then you can complement it with other use cases as well. Wholesale market participation can be stacked on top of that. If you're only using battery once a month for 2 or 4 hour period, and it's sitting there the rest of the time, what are you going to do with it? It's just that asset can be used in some other way. So we're seeing folks stack these values on top of each other, using it for grid resiliency and reliability, certainly a big issue in today's world. And as people, as more renewables come onto the grid, and folks integrate that into the grid and see the issues that causes with intermittency, having a firm energy source from energy storage is a very prevalent use case that we're seeing folks explore a lot. And non-Wells alternatives is kind of ethereal in my mind, but just what are the different ways that you can provide congestion relief? And maybe you would build a distribution substation, maybe you would upgrade something, maybe you don't have to. And so those are opportunities that we're seeing folks explore. And then I think this is probably pretty well known, but maybe better than I know it for most folks in the room, but just the opportunity on the funding side. We talked about it a little bit earlier today, but direct ownership of systems, of projects, of investments where maybe a PPA made more sense in the past. With the IRA, certainly is looking more and more attractive for public power space. And so again, we're seeing just a ton of interest. Folks that are getting the group funding, folks are getting their PACE funding, folks are getting their their arms around how to leverage the ITC in the best way, and put it in then disadvantaged communities and energy communities, and combine that with domestic content, you're getting your projects essentially paid for in today's world. And there is a part of the supply continues to increase, and while demand is going up, we're seeing energy storage component prices drop. Relief post-COVID has started to kick in. Supply chains have gone down. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So lead times are going down. So it's really a pretty opportune time. And one of the things that keeps me up at night, in the role that I'm in, is thinking about what's going to happen if there's a change in administration, if there's whatever the administration that comes in, there's inevitably going to be changes. And what does that mean for some of the environment that we're in? And so, all of those things are kind of components that we think about every day and talk through with, with the folks that we're trying to build projects with. So I think that's really all I've got. I'm happy to take questions, but I'll pause there.
Everybody,
Yeah.
how many of you know what Athena is? Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it the optimization engine?
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure you knew what Athena was when we said Athena. Athena is our software platform, AI platform. It was developed in 2009. And I think you were showing, Doug, I think we have over 30+ million run
That's right.
on our AI technology. But it's also machine learning as well. So once the system is set up and operating, it will become more efficient over time after it sees how how we're going to operate the system. So I just want to make sure you, because it said Athena up there, I want to make sure everybody knew what Athena was. We called her Athena. So that was done by many years ago by executive VPs. And she would go on.
But Athena's.
Yes.
So, we still get pushback from some of our communities about battery storage in there related to the fire risk. What's going on within the industry that can kind of help with those, pushbacks that you get when the local utilities interested in installing it, but then they start talking about it with their city council or whatever, and then fire chiefs, no.
Yeah, I've seen the same sort of theme, and I think it's first and foremost about education. I think that the batteries of 5 years ago even are, batteries of today are just far and away better from a fire safety standpoint. The regulations, the UL certifications have all caught up, and I think in some cases have gone the pendulum swinging really far. I think it could probably swing back. But I think it's first and foremost about education, helping fire chiefs and the city council members understand, hey, here's what the fire risk is. Here's how they get these battery systems get tested, and here's how they get certified well, and here's what that means. They each can comply in the different each OEM, whether it's Tesla or some other originally manufactured, they can comply in different ways, but they have to meet certain certifications. And I can tell you, these are liquid cooled systems that have state-of-the-art deflagration technologies that are, so I think that there's a lot of, I've heard this directly as well, there's battery fires all the time. It's like there have been battery fires, we're not combusting, and I think it's a lot of it is just about making sure that people aren't thinking of the battery fire that happened in 2012 in this one place, because that's a very different world from today. That's kind of my first and foremost, like understanding that landscape of today and the batteries being manufactured have certifications and safety built in, where in the past maybe that really wasn't the case.
I think one of the other issues is that batteries are dumb, they just sit there, right? And we hear about the lithium issue with fires and so forth. We've got, this is this slide might be a little bit old, but we've got 5 gigawatts or more that we've been operating for many years. We've never had a fire. And one of the reasons is the way you operate that battery. We're monitoring it from our rock and not. We know when that battery is either heating or something is not operating or something won't be charged. We think it shut down immediately and then we do a service call. So, we're monitoring that battery for safety.
So what kind of guidelines do you give a community that's interested in having you install a battery within their community as to site location?
Yeah,
What's an ideal site for some of those potential risks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the siting issue typically comes down to where can we have the least amount of copper running to do the most. And typically that's gonna be, in the community, depending on how you're interconnecting it, but assuming it's a front of the meter, you wanna put it right next to the substation. Hopefully you can find land there. You don't need a ton of space. I mean, we're putting these, we used to put these batteries in, this is, STEM 1.0. We used to put these batteries in the electrical rooms at its stores, and to Randy's point, not having any safety issues. That's because of how we monitor and manage them. But we're putting them in parking lots, they're, much less in the grand scheme, much less of a fire risk than a lot of the other, potential assets we put in the community. From that standpoint.
for example, we have 3.5 megawatts of batteries in the basement of the old Hoover Daniels building in Irvine. It's been operating there for over 8 years and performing quite well. That was before, that was pre-law, where you can't put them indoors any longer for that size system, but, yeah.
This has been a Hometown Connections production. Thank you for watching.